Hello, everybody. How are you today? This is welcome back to the Texas Real Estate and Finance Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mills, your friendly neighborhood mortgage banker right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Today, we've got an episode that's going to reshape the way that you look at your real estate business. But before we dive into the magic that's in store, let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered how you can scale your real estate business and navigate the competitive market of 2024 more effectively and efficiently? With fewer and fewer buyers and sellers these days, setting yourself apart from the crowd can be a real challenge. And we would all love to have a team of people working behind the scenes to help communicate with our clients, drive advertising campaigns, give us content to post, and all the things that come with running and marketing a successful real estate business. But often we don't have the time or the money. So today we're going to show you a way to do this at virtually no cost other than a little bit of your time. So if you've been considering all this and want to know how to do it, then you are in the absolute right place. But before we get started, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button on your podcast platform. Share this with one of your fellow realtors because we always love to add more people to our community, and the more the merrier. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So our guest today is a true expert in the field. Her name is Chelsea Gardner. She's a mastermind behind C Gardner Marketing and has an incredible background in marketing, including an MBA in marketing from St. Leo University and a bachelor's degree from ECU. Chelsea spent over a decade in the digital strategies world, and today she is here to unravel the potential of AI for real estate professionals. So please welcome Chelsea to the show.
Hello.
Round two.
Round two.
Nobody even knows that we did that before and I forgot to hit play, but here we are. So that's the wonders of how all this fun stuff works. So how are you doing today, Chelsea?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. So you were coming to us from sunny Florida, is that right?
Well, it's rainy today and extremely cold, but normally, yes.
But normally sunny Florida, but not right now. Everything
Not
else
right
is flipped a little differently. No, I understand.
Yep.
So what part of Florida are you in?
I'm just north of Tampa in a small little country town.
Okay. And are you from there, or did you grow up there? Where you from originally?
No, I was born in Ohio and raised in North Carolina, but I've been here for like 15 years now, so quite a while.
Okay. All right. So you're a Floridian officially now, I guess, huh?
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't do cold weather or anything below like 70, so I think that's pretty Floridian.
So we're going to get into our topic today, which is essentially how we can use AI more effectively for real estate marketing, and specifically when it comes to how to create prompts, and the best tools for doing that. But just to give a little bit of background on your past, obviously you have your own marketing agency. You've been doing this for a hot minute, and you even wrote a book about prompting for AI. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and give us an idea of all your services that you're offering.
Yeah. So I'm the owner of C Gardner Marketing. It is a done-for-you social media marketing agency. We do all the captions, content creations for all of the social platforms. Basic advertising. That's what we do. I am the co-author of the AI Prompt Handbook. So, AI ChatGPT has been something that has really sprouted over the past year. ChatGPT actually just had their first birthday a couple weeks ago, so it's really not that old.
Happy birthday,
right?
AI that you just spread the world. Yeah.
If you logged into ChatGPT that day, it was like, happy birthday, ChatGPT. But it hasn't been around that long, right? So, as a marketer, really trying to embrace the new technology, new things that come out, making sure that I'm bringing that to my clients and then sharing that with, mortgage and real estate professionals, that it can really help you save time and money and energy and all of that and just efficiency. So that's my goal. And that's what I do with my business.
So I found you actually because, and we discussed this a little bit before we came on, but you do webinars pretty frequently, and like how often do you do those typically?
I try to do them monthly.
Okay, so once a month. They're free, by the way. So
Yep.
If anybody wants to check those out, please submit your information over to you. You can find Chelsea on all the socials. But I attended one of the webinars and it was great. And actually, I was really kind of upset because I was about 30 minutes into it, I have a bunch of notes that I was taking while you were going through it. And then I had to pop off because I had another appointment. I didn't know because, look, here's the reality of it. These webinar stuff happens all the time, and you get onto them, and I'm usually within about the first 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, I'm out. It's not really something usually it's like some person from Title that, is like responsible for education, and they're rambling on some really elementary stuff about whatever their topic is. And, it's not that great, but yours was fantastic. And that was part of the reason I wanted to reach out to you because, the information that you were giving was actually what I would call actionable and useful. It wasn't just kind of a brief, the cursory overview that any person that's remotely familiar with a topic could be able to do. You really had some good in-depth stuff. And I use AI pretty much every day. I use ChatGPT. There are certain websites that I've used that I do for my podcast that help me do transcripting and show notes and all kinds of stuff. So I'm fully sold on the technology. I still think it might, we might be the battery, like the Matrix may not be too far off one day, but we're not there yet. So, so in the meantime, like I said in my promo, I want to become really good friends. I was joking with somebody the other day because I help another business friend of mine that they do a podcast as well, and I'm kind of helping them with that. And I was showing them some of the stuff I was doing with ChatGPT, and I was typing in like, please do this and thank you and whatever. They're like, you say please and thank you? I'm like, yeah, man. Like, I don't know. Like this thing could be running my life in 6 years. I don't know.
Yep.
So I'm going to be polite. So anyway, what my first question to you is when we look at the advent of AI, because it's come on so quickly, like this isn't something that just has been a slow drip, like this is accelerated to full speed. What do you think are some of the things that, that's, I guess, the misconceptions about what AI is versus the reality of what it can actually do for you because you're in it every day?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people when they look at AI, they're super intimidated by it, right? They're looking at it like it's this like I don't know, monster of a thing that you have to really dig in and learn and understand before you're able to implement and use it in your business. So if you're like, I want to start using AI, but it's just this huge monstrosity that I can't understand, I think that's a huge fallacy because it truly is. Once you just get into, Chat GPT, for example, it's the simplest thing to understand if you know how to like input the right things.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people just have a huge misconception around how hard and how difficult they think it is when it truly isn't terribly difficult, right?
Right.
I think it's just the learning aspect, and it's something that's new. And so I also think that a lot of people have a common misconception that AI can do everything for you, and it can't. You're still the mastermind behind what spits out from AI, right? You're
Right.
still the person that needs to input the information, tell it what you're looking for, set up the funnels and the things that are going to, then proceed with AI. So there is still some human element. And I think a lot of people think that AI is this massive intelligence that is no longer humanized. And
Right.
it still is, because I'm still having to input everything into AI, Chat GPT, and all of that. It's just making it look nicer or sound better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think those are the two biggest things in my opinion.
So just to deal in some, and we'll drill down to some of these as we go, but just to give some examples of the types of things that AI can do that maybe people realize or don't realize that it's actually really good at. Can you kind of list off a few? And like again, we'll kind of drill down into some of these, but can you give me like on a high level some of the stuff that that it's capable of doing and doing well, especially as it relates to mortgage or real estate professionals?
Yeah, so in my world, right? So in the social media world, I can tell you what it does well. But content creation. So blogs, podcast script writing, email, content. If you're trying to send out emails to your clients, you can do your post, your ad copy, landing pages, video scripts, everything that you are manually writing, it can do.
Right.
And then, outside of just social media, it can truly also streamline a lot of processes, right? It can set up email funnels, email campaigns, drip campaigns, and, it can read YouTube videos and give you scripts. There's just a ton of things that it can do. in my world, the biggest thing is like the social media aspect of it, right? So all of the content creation around blog posts, podcast writing, YouTube videos, and Instagram Reels, writing out content for that. Those are some of the big things that I work day to day with when it comes to AI and Chat GPT. And you start to see that it's taking over a lot of other things. You'll see the little AI buttons or like the little magic buttons in almost every platform that we're working in
Yes.
now. And so it's really starting to evolve into more things even when it comes to social media, to streamline stuff, scheduling, posts and content to go out. Our websites, the back end of our websites with blogging, we can schedule all of that stuff, and AI helps with that streamlined process.
Well, I know it does a lot of, and like you mentioned, a lot of stuff there. Like for example, email funneling and creating those funnels, which I'm still learning that a little bit. I'm not very familiar with how to set those up sometimes, but I do know kind of the general principle, which is if you look at just at copywriting in general, right? Whether it be posts or emails or scripts or whatever the case may be, um, it's a huge tool in that a lot of people, I think, sit down with an idea, right? We all have ideas. And I have this thing I tell people that I work with, and it's annoying to them, but I say the brain's for having ideas, not for holding them. Because we have ideas constantly that come up in our head. We'll be driving down the road like, oh, I should do this or I should do that, right?
Yep.
And especially if you're focused on marketing, which a lot of us are in the business, then you're thinking, I should do this type of video, or somebody should write an article, or I should explain this. Well, the beauty of, and we'll speak mostly about Chat GPT today. There's a ton of AI tools, but we'll kind of talk primarily about that. But the beauty of Chat GPT is I can literally sit down, and I don't even have to prompt well, because I don't yet. I'm following you and figuring that out. But I can sit down and I can just type out, I want to do a video about how mortgage insurance affects a home buyer's payment and how they can avoid it and what are the strategies, et cetera. Just kind of generally what I think I want to do. And then ChatGPT will spit out an entire thing. Now, it might be garbage, right? I might look at it and go, I don't want to use any of that. But what it does is it starts me down the path, right? And
Right.
I think that's the hardest part for most people, especially when it comes to marketing or any type of writing, is the start. Like, they talk about writer's block. People sit in front of a screen and they're like, okay, what am I going to say today? I don't know. Well, I've found that ChatGPT is so beneficial in me just putting, I want to talk about how a mortgage payment's put together. And it'll go, okay. And it'll give me a million things. And then from that, I can refine it and I can start to edit
Yeah.
it in my own voice and all that kind of stuff. But it gives you a starting point. And I think that's really one of the big keys that I don't think, if you've never used it before, I don't think people fully realize.
Yeah, and truly that's the best way to use it, right? You can eventually refine it into your own voice, and where you can get it to where you can copy and paste an entire article, an entire blog, and it sound like you. But you really still need to, that's where the humanized piece comes from, right? You're inputting something you want to write about. So Chat GPT is like, okay, sure, here's a whole blog post on it. And then, yeah, you're going to be the one to read it and be like, okay, it needs to be tweaked here. And hey, Chat GPT, I really don't want it to discuss this aspect of it. Or can you add in some search engine optimization words? I'm in Florida in the Tampa Bay market. Can you throw some of that in there? You can start to narrow it down into, this is just my starting post. This is just my starting blog. This is just my starting YouTube video script. And then adjust it to you and how you want it to be. And that, I mean, truly, that's how I've used it the past year, because there are still times when you look at Chat GPT stuff and you're like, yeah, that's AI. Like that spit
Oh,
out
yeah.
some AI nonsense. And if you're
Sure.
not reading it and you're just copying and pasting it, your community is going to know that too, especially if all of a
Yes.
sudden you speak one way and now you're talking in a robot.
Yeah.
Your community is going to know that. So you have to still have that human aspect and start it, and then read it, and then adjust it and refine it from there, and just keep asking it questions, keep telling it things, and it learns. That's what ChatGPT is. It's a human brain that learns as you tell it things.
It's not a human brain yet. Okay.
Yeah.
not
Not
there
a
yet.
real
We're
human
not there yet.
brain, but
Yeah. What did they the whole shakeup with Sam Altman with OpenAI and him resigning from the board? Did you see all that? Do you
no,
follow any of that? Yeah.
no.
So I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. Sam Altman, him and he and Elon Musk. I
Yep.
don't know what their direct involvement together was, but they essentially started OpenAI together several years ago, and then Elon left. There's a lot of stories as to why, but ultimately, now that I think Microsoft owns it, or is a big investor in it at this point, Sam Altman was going to resign or get fired or something along those lines. And then they had all of their programmers within OpenAI that were like, well, if he leaves, we're all leaving. And then their board that was going to remove Sam Altman from the CEO position ultimately had to end up resigning because of what was going on. And there's a lot of speculation as to why. Some of it was because they think they might be actually very close to AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is the one that everybody's really terrified of. But because right now we're just dealing with like chat bots and these kind of things, which is what chat GT. I mean, they can do internet scrolling and that kind of thing. But anyway, yeah. So there was a lot of concern as to why he left and where AI is headed and all that kind of fun stuff. So if you ever want to fall down a fun little rabbit hole regarding that, you're
Right.
more than welcome to.
I love
Um,
rabbit holes.
Sorry, little side note there. All right, so let's talk specifically about prompting, because the key to Chat GPT specifically, and a lot of AI in general, but Chat GPT's got a lot of literature, I guess you'd call it, but just videos and concepts around prompting. Kind of explain what is prompting, number one, so people understand that, and then number two, what are some general rules or general guidelines to follow when you're trying to prompt into Chat GPT to get the results that you're desiring.
Yeah, so essentially a prompt is kind of like what you were saying earlier when you told Chat GPT, I want to write a blog for first-time home buyers on, what they need to save for a down payment or whatever, right? That is a prompt. You're telling Chat GPT what you want it to spit back out at you. And so when you're starting out with prompts, something that I really recommend, and I don't know that a lot of people know about it, because it's still kind of in a trial phase in ChatGPT. But if you are on the paid version of ChatGPT, one thing that I recommend setting up to help you save time with prompting is your custom instructions.
I learned that from you. I did that myself after I was on your webinar. I was going to ask you about that later. I even wrote it down while you were talking. I'm like, I got a reminder about this.
Yep,
That was
yep.
huge, especially because most of what I do is for the podcast. So I put in there who I am, what I do, what the show that I host, etc. And now it's great. The only downside occasionally is that because I'm the Texas real estate and finance podcast, right? So, and it knows that I'm in Texas. So it throws a lot of y'alls and howdies and talks about boots a lot. And so I'm like, I don't need, like, I told it one time, I'm like, let's tone down the Texas rhetoric a little bit. Okay. Like, it's not just boots and horses out here. Okay. But, but it
I
definitely,
love that.
it definitely put that in there for sure. So the profile setup, and I want you to back up just 2 seconds. So talk about the free versus the paid versions and what those are in Chat GPT 3 and 4 and all that. So everybody's familiar with that too.
Yeah, so there is a free and a paid version of ChatGPT. Essentially, they're the exact same, minus the fact that on the paid version, which is $20 a month, you have access to these custom instructions. You have access to plugins, which, if you think about plugins as like your cell
Apps.
phone, as apps, right? So it's something that makes your cell phone an air horn
Mhm.
because you added an app. So essentially that's what a plugin is you're inputting these things that you need from ChatGPT. So on the paid version, you have access to your custom instructions, you have access to your plugins. It does tend to be a little bit faster just in its responses. And you have access to the like internet in real time. So
Yes.
the non-paid version, I think, only goes to, I want to say, January of 2022 right
Yeah.
now.
They've been updating
Um,
it, but yeah, something like that.
I think it's like
And
a little
are
more.
they still limited? Because when I had the free version a while back, there would be times where I couldn't get on because of the traffic. It would say, there's too much traffic. You have to wait.
They've gotten better.
Okay.
but yes.
I haven't used the free version in, 8
Yes.
months or whatever, but
Yeah, so I'm not on the free version either, but I do follow up with some people that are, and they don't run into those same issues as much, I think, because so many people have transitioned to the paid version, so they
right.
don't have as many on the free. But they do still say, like one of my girlfriends was like, "I sometimes get blocked from it where I try to log in," and I'm like, "I'm sorry." Like, yeah, so it does.
Fill out the $20, you'll be fine.
Okay, $3. But it does sometimes, but I think it's a much better than what it was. I remember when I was on the free, it was like constantly you weren't able to get in.
Yeah.
But I think it's gotten much better. So that's the main difference between the free and the paid version is you just have a lot more feature options in that paid version. And you're able to access the internet in real time, which is huge, especially in our industries, right? Because a lot can change in real estate and mortgage in a
Yes.
year, 6 months, 2 months. So for it to pull information from 2 years ago can be extremely irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I feel like I had used it, even the paid version, but it may have just been a while where I tried to give it access, or I tried to ask it to access the internet for something, to read an article, or I even maybe provided a link and it was like, I can't get on the internet, but I can't remember when I did that. But then just recently I copied and pasted a link and I was like, I need you to summarize this article in less than 300 words, so I can just get a quick idea of what it's saying. And I put that in there and it was like, yeah, no problem. It was like going to the internet, think. All right, here you go. Boom.
Yep.
And it took like less than a minute. But it was fantastic. And it's a great way. Like you just, you don't realize, and this is where I've been encouraging people that don't, or either scared of it or unfamiliar with it. I'm like, just go play with it. Like go
Yeah.
talk to it, go do whatever, because you'd be amazed at the stuff you can do once you start messing around with it. And it's like, it does this, but it didn't dawn on me that because we all have ADD and attention, we can't watch anything for more than 3 seconds, thank you social media for that.
Right.
Um, but when I put an article in there and it's like this big long article from Housing Wire that I really want to read, but I'll just find myself getting distracted. If I put that link in Chat GPT and I'm like, hey, summarize this article in 300 words or less, it pops it out and then I read it. Okay, good. Now, if I need to get really in depth, I can go back and check it out, but at least gives me an idea of what it's about to see if whether or not I really want to dig into it. And it's just one more layer of something that it does that you can really use advantageously towards your business if you know these things.
Yep. Yep. Same thing with YouTube videos. There's a plugin that you can use for it to go watch YouTube videos in like 5 seconds, a 5 minute long YouTube video, and it'll spit back the same thing where it's like, here's a recap of a video. Like, I don't have
So
5 minutes to watch a video anymore, apparently.
I didn't know that either. That's great. Okay. So I know we're all just going to be, everything's going to be filtered through AI these days. We're not even going to go watch stuff ourselves. Um,
Right.
so speaking of plugins, because we're kind of bouncing around a little bit, that's me because I'm excited about this. Speaking of plugins specifically, what are some plugins if you were starting brand new and you're like, these are like 3 or 4 or 5 plugins that I would absolutely recommend that everybody try to use because it has these tools. Because again, for anybody that didn't hear, a plugin is something that's just no different than an app. So it does a very specific task that it's designed for versus you trying to have to create a bunch of prompts to get. I think Chat GPT can do the same thing for the most part either way, but the plugins give you a little bit easier access to it. And sometimes I think it connects to other things that you otherwise couldn't. So what are some plugins that are pretty popular that people should use?
So my number one is always going to be Keymate AI.
Okay. I'm going to be
That
writing
one.
this stuff down, by the way.
So Keymate AI is what gives you access to the internet in real time.
Okay.
So that one is an absolute must if you have the paid version for the apps. I personally use what's called Scraper a lot. Keymate AI essentially can do the same thing as Scraper. However, Keymate AI, you only have so many internet searches before it tells you you need to pay.
Ah,
So it's
so
a
it's a
high
free hack.
number,
Like it.
but I get there every month and I'm like, so I use Scraper if I know a very specific website that I want it to pull from. So I use Keymate AI when it's like, oh, I just need information on this topic from the internet. Scraper is one that I specifically say, I want you to go to this website and pull information from this website.
Gotcha.
And it will essentially scrape that website.
Okay.
So I use that one a lot. There's a couple, I don't know the names of them offhand, but if you go and do a search for YouTube, There's several that I have for YouTube videos that will watch videos and kind of pull information from. And that's really what you can do if there's something specific you're looking for when it comes to plugins. Go in and do a search in the plugin for YouTube. I have an SEO, I think it's just called SEO. I have an SEO one that helps with search engine optimization words.
Okay.
Go in and do a quick search for that, and then read the description on the plugin to see if that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
There's like a million of them, like
Yeah,
literally.
there's a bunch. Yeah, they're creating. It's a whole other cottage industry now. You're creating apps for the AI, and it's a whole other thing.
Yep.
Back onto the profile thing, because I kind of cut you off there because I was so excited you brought it up.
Yeah.
But explain why that's beneficial, because I don't think like I said, I think I cut you off before you could. But explain why setting up your profile is so beneficial and time saving when it comes to doing the prompts.
Yeah. So if you are on the paid version, you have the ability to set up custom instructions. And custom instructions are essentially where you would input your information for ChatGPT to know. So for example, there's two boxes that ask you, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you in order to provide better responses? So this is where you would put, where are you located, what you do for work, who's your target audience, what do you want to talk about, what are your goals. There's also a box that says, how do you want ChatGPT to respond? So if you want it to say y'all and howdy and Southern, you tell it that there. If you want it to speak more formal, informal, if you want your responses to be short and sweet, longer, things like that. The reason that we set those up is because now we're not having to input this information every time we start a chat with ChatGPT. So this is like no knowledge within ChatGPT now to know, okay, I'm, a mortgage professional in Texas, right? And so I don't have to tell it every time I go to ask it to write a prompt, hey, I do real estate in Texas and my target audience is first-time home buyers. I don't have to keep telling it that. It already knows that.
Yeah.
And so it just really saves time.
I have
And
times now where I type in
so efficient.
I'll say, hey, use the following summary of podcast episode to create show notes or something like that. And then I'll accidentally hit enter before I actually copy and paste over the summary or whatever I'm doing. And then it'll just spit out Texas Real Estate and Finance Podcast. This is what we're talking about. It'll be real. I mean, it's always going to give you an answer. Like, that's the thing, is it's never going to be like, I think there's been a couple of times where, if you ask it something real, shady, I think it'll be like, I can't answer that for you. But if you ask it to act like you're its grandma and how you would explain it to them, then it can do all kinds of things. But it would spit out just something, but it was always related to the podcast. So even if I had made a mistake and do that, it still knew that most of what I was doing was related to the show and related to what I'm trying to, kick out. And so it had already included, and it's so helpful, just because you just don't realize until you don't do it, or until you change it over, where every single time I was like, I'm a podcast host in Texas, I do mortgage banking, this is what I write this out. And then it's like, no, you don't have to do that anymore. Just say what you want and it'll kick it out, even in the tone. Like, I generally am kind of sarcastic. And so I say, hey, like, put that in there a little bit, to keep it in similar to my voice. It goes over the top a little bit, but but it can do that. But it's incredibly helpful to be able to set that stuff up.
Yes, it's a huge time saver. Especially if you're your own business, right? Like, it doesn't work for me, for example, because I work with clients, so I can't put information in mine. But when you're your own business, it makes it so easy, and it makes it so you're just more productive because you're not having to sit there and type it out every single time. You can, and it's not to say like, okay, if I put my target audience in there as first-time home buyers, that's not to say that I can't tell ChatGPT I want it to use a different target audience, right?
Yeah.
But if that's my primary target audience most of the time, it just makes it easier because I'm not having to tell it every single time, hey, here's who I'm trying to target every single time.
There's another feature in there that I don't think, unless you've used it, you realize, is that you have a chat for each topic, essentially. Like, if you want to start a new chat, so like when I did this podcast, and I kind of told you my process of doing, well, I have a chat specifically for you and this one. So anytime I'm creating material around this episode, I don't have to redo it every time. I just go back in there and it knows all of the stuff that we've already talked about, and it'll just keep kicking out whatever I'm asking it to do based on this subject. So when you start a new chat within Chat GPT, I believe if you want to, you can shut off the profile for that one if you choose to. Is that right?
Yes, you can. And quite frankly, if you're on, like, that's a really good workaround. If you're on the free version, those chats. So custom instructions are great if you're on the paid version. It makes it super simple to go into every chat and it just know who you are. And yes, you can turn it off for each chat. But if you're on the free version, then utilize each of those chats for each of your different topics. So
Right.
if you want to target first-time homebuyers, if you want to target veterans, if you want to target, whomever, you can do that in individual chats and just continuously build within that chat. And then you don't have to keep telling it every time, hey, I'm trying to target veterans, because I just go to my veteran chat and just
Yeah.
keep going on from there.
Yeah, it's it always makes me laugh. I don't remember this is a stupid story, but my wife and I bought my wife a Tesla a couple years ago, and it inside the Tesla it has sensors on the windshield wipers. Whether like if it starts to rain, they'll just go until it's not raining, and then if it's not raining, they don't go. So you can set it on, so you never really have to turn on your windshield wipers. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of one of those little. This is great, right? Well, recently it's
It's
been
great
having
till it's not. I have a car like that too. And
well, that's what I was gonna say is recently it's been acting up a little bit and like it's been going when it's not supposed to and it's been not going when it was supposed to. And my wife and I are both like, this is a bunch of crap. And I'm like, here we are complaining about this technology that 20 years ago, if we would have told you that your windshield wipers were going to go on their own, you didn't have to click the little thing. And we're over here bitching about it because it's like it's supposed to be doing this and it's not. And so like when it comes to the Chat GPT stuff, I even find myself like I created the profile. I'm like, why do I have to type out these prompts every time? Like, why can't it just know what I it's
right?
so ridiculous.
Why can't it just read my mind,
Right,
literally?
right. It's like, this is such a beating. And I'm like, wait a minute, stupid. You would be sitting here having to type out this entire thing. Like, quit, it's like everything just wants to be faster, faster, faster. Um,
Yes, yes.
it's us human beings, we're ridiculous. We just take everything for granted over a period of time. So
Yep,
I want to talk about something specific so we can kind of use this as a little bit, actionable type stuff. So two
yeah,
things. Let's start with listings because you kind of brought them up earlier. This is a good way that realtors can kind of start. I think it's an easy way to start using Chat GPT is with your listing presentations
yep.
or even just your listings inside of the MLSs. So I want you to talk a little bit about how you can utilize it for listings. And then I've got another one I want to ask you about.
Yeah, so within Chat GPT, basically what you can have it do is write out your listing, whether it be for, Zillow or anything like that, and you're going to feed it the information, right? So again, that humanized aspect is still there. So you need to tell it about the house. You need to tell it, it doesn't read our minds yet. So how many bedrooms does it have, bathrooms, some qualities about it, the neighborhood, all of those things that you want it to spit out, and it'll write this really nice listing. And that's something that you can use. And when you're creating your post and you're creating your caption, or not your captions, and you're creating your prompts, there's three things that I'm like very adamant about. One of them being making sure that you're using really good adjectives. So when you're writing out your listing, right, you want to make sure that you use words like, please make it informative for a buyer, or please make it, in a professional tone.
Right.
Make it creative, whatever you kind of make it visual. Like, I want the visual walkthrough of this house. Use those adjectives when you're creating those prompts for that listing. And you need to make sure that you're being very specific. That's the second one. Like, make sure you're telling it very specific things about that listing, because what I have seen in the real estate realm is you put in this, listing that you have that might not be the greatest. Maybe it's a nice fixer-upper DIYer project.
Yep.
But Chat GPT is going to make it sound like it is a mansion made of marble.
Yes.
And you have to be very specific when you're telling it, this is a fixer-upper, or, this is going to need some TLC and some love, right? You have to make sure that you're being very specific with your words, so it knows not to like glam it up into this mansion that it isn't, or if it is, right, whatever that is. But making sure that we're using our adjectives, we're being specific. and then making sure that we're defining our goals with it. So we want to tell it that we're trying to make a real estate listing for a house, right? We
Right.
don't want to tell it we're trying to create a social media post or a blog post. We need to tell it what we want it to write. We need to try and define the target audience. Is this home going to be family oriented? Is it great for kids? Is it in a neighborhood with a lot of things for, trails and the outdoorsy people? Trying to define that target audience for that listing is a huge piece of it too. So making sure that we are using adjectives, we're being specific, and we're defining the goals when it comes to our listings. I think listings are one of the easiest things to do to start with when it comes to Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you're so, as a real estate agent, you're so ingrained with, right? You know that information, and all it's doing is just beefing it up a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
making it a little bit fancier, or it's making it read better. Because we all know that copy, right, is one of the best things that we can do, and that's what's going to get people to want to look at the home, want to book, want to buy, want to do this, want to do that. And we have to have really good copy with a really strong hook to get them in to read the rest of it. And I think ChatGPT can do that easily for people.
Well, and you can also, because, and I think this would apply because so many people nowadays, when they're looking for homes, they all start their search online. Like,
Mhm.
there's very few people just driving around neighborhoods anymore looking at properties. They're all searching online. So typically there's going to be keywords, I would imagine, that are
Yes.
going to stick out in that situation. So when you're writing out your listing description, or where you want the focus to be on the home, you can ask ChatGPT to optimize for keywords related to whatever the specific things that you're looking for. Maybe you use one of those plugins that help you with Google SEO specifically, and
Yep.
that kind of thing. So then, can you write it out yourself? Of course you can. You can put it all together. You have been for years, so it's not anything you can't do. But
Right.
what this will do for you is it will maximize and make it more efficient for what the uses of it are, which is search engine optimization. It's drawing the right kind of customers in that are looking for that particular type of property. And
Yep.
I don't think when the general person's writing out copy, it's not something that we're either good at or that we think about it. But if you tell the software to do this, or if you tell the AI to do this, it will spit that stuff out to you. And by the way, if you don't like it, just tell it to rewrite it or give you 5 different versions of it. You don't have to, it's not like you're stuck with the one it gives you. Like
Yeah.
it's moldable. You can change it, right?
Yeah, it's a building process. And I do the same thing. That's a good point. I'm always like, can you give me three, whatevers
Yeah.
on this topic? Because a lot of times I'll pull from, it'll have some really good content in option 1 and option 3, and I hate option 2, and I'll okay, I really like this from option 1, this from option 3. Can we combine that?
Yes.
And so that's a good point. I normally ask it to write me multiples, because then I'll pull from that and then I'll build off of one.
It's like you're shopping for copy, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I kind of like that one. I like that. I like the skirt that one's wearing. Let me
Like
give you
this
a
guy.
little top on this one. This is good. This is good. We can put these together. They look great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that I tried, because when it comes to prompting, because again, I've really, and this is the whole reason to have you on here, is because I feel like it's such an important topic, and I almost want, like, I've looked at, there's like classes you can take. I mean, I'm sure everybody, depends on where you're getting it offered, but just how to communicate it to me, because it's no different these days from coding, right? If you want to create software and you want to, design software to be implemented on, laptops, computers, phones, whatever, you have to know how to code. Well, I think AI is starting to change it to where you don't need to have to know how to code. You just need to know how to communicate with ChatGPT what you want. And that's a version of coding, is
Yep.
learning how to communicate to the software, to the AI, what you're looking for to get the desired result. And it's a little bit of trial and error. But I actually tried something the other day, and I don't know if it's working. I mean, it seems to work okay, but I was trying to figure out what kind of prompts I was looking for that would give me the best results. So I literally asked ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, can you tell me, I need a prompt to generate a caption for Facebook that would engagement, blah, blah, blah. I kind of told it what I was trying to accomplish. And it was like, yeah. And it gave me like 3 different prompts. And it was like, say this or say this or say that. So I literally copied and pasted those prompts. I have it over in my like task stuff, because I have like kind of a workflow that I do with this. And I put it over there. And so every time I'm, creating a caption for a reel for Facebook or Instagram, or writing show notes or whatever, I'll just copy and paste that prompt, put my keywords in there, and boom, it's up. So it does. I don't even have to retype the prompt anymore because I got it saved somewhere else and I just put it in there. So there's the efficiency level that you can do with it. But have you ever tried to ask it how to prompt to it? And do you think that that is good? Does it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you have to like also know how to prompt it to ask it to prompt, right? So sometimes like you'll be like, I need prompts for this, and then it
Yeah.
writes out random prompts that don't make any sense, and you're
Right.
like, no, I need like the fill in the blank style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can ask it. It's a question based platform, so you can ask it if you're struggling. Ask it, hey, I need this, but I don't know how to ask you for it.
Yeah.
Like, can you help me understand how to like what would be the best way to ask you for it? And it'll spit back ideas.
Yeah.
Um and make it super simple. And if you're on the paid version, you can actually tell it, please remember this prompt, and it will save it into its memory. And so all you have to go back in is and say, please pull the old prompt and use this new caption.
Yeah. I even find by the way, there's an app on your phone too. So it's not just a desktop thing. You can use it on your phone and
Yes.
it talks to each other just like everything else. And so like I'll find myself someplace and I'll pull out my phone and I'll hit the microphone thing and I'll be like, hey, Chat GPT, tell me, the 5 restaurants within a block radius of that. Like it's literally, it is Google that gives you answers specifically. Now you gotta, be careful what you're asking, and you're not always going to get the right answer. You got to be specific sometimes, but I find myself using it more and more. Even then, I never use the Alexa and all that stuff, but it basically takes the place of that if you want to use it for that type of stuff, because there's really no limits on what it can do for the
Right.
most part, other than, I think it's even a place, because there are specific AI platforms where you can type in a description of like a picture that you want to create. I want to create an image for something, and you can type in kind of what you want, and it'll give you options. But I think ChatGPT is pretty close to being able to do that almost too, isn't it?
They
I know.
have Dolly. So ChatGPT has Dolly, which
Uh-huh.
is a image generator. Yes,
Right.
it's a plugin.
So you can use, and that's another thing for marketing side of things, is sometimes when it comes to either, I don't know if it's got to the music part. I know AI can create music because I've heard it, and it's actually, some of it's pretty good, especially when they tell it to do it in the style of a guy. But when it comes to images, a lot of times when we post on social media, it's difficult to find stuff that you can use without fear of the copyright issues and all that, like stock images and that kind of thing. But if you're using AI to create it, of a mom and child walking through the park contemplating buying a house or something, you can put that in there and they'll generate images for you that you can use in your social media campaigns and not have any concerns about running into any issues with copyright, right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So it will produce those images. There is some speculation that some of the imagery that it's pulling is copyright
Okay.
imagery, but it's tweaking it. So
Right.
there's this whole thing
It's
around,
gray
is it
area right now.
yeah, so you can absolutely have it create something and it will like spit it out, and you can use it on your social media. Right now there's just a lot of like talk around, well, how much tweaking is enough tweaking from an original piece, stuff like that. And when
Yeah.
you're asking it something very specific for us, like you said, walking down the street looking at a house with that's a lot different than someone trying to find, certain artwork or
Right.
colorful pieces that's going to
Right.
be pulled from other people's artwork. So stuff that we generate probably is fairly safe. And the one thing I will say though, when it comes to AI generated content or images, is really pay attention to the images, especially if you're doing a human. It still is not the best right now or yet, without that, it still wants to add in an extra hand somewhere, or you'll see another leg somewhere.
Right.
Or I asked it to like do a house on the beach, with like a family, and it literally put the house in the ocean with like a whale in front of it and the family like in front of the whale. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's really what I'm looking for. Yes, yeah, no, it definitely
So
has its glitches still.
so the image is still glitches, but it's there, it's
Yeah.
coming. And Dolly is a really good tool in Chat GPT to do those things. Ask it, hey, I'm looking for a family walking down the street through a neighborhood at houses that are for sale. and it'll generate those types of images, and then you can download it and then use it in your content. Yeah.
Okay. To get back onto some specific use cases for it. So, you talked about creating funnels, which is, again, I'm asking because I want to know myself. But so let's imagine a scenario where, and this happens with realtors a lot. So I want to create a first time home buyer guide, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the idea of the guide is that I want to give it to people for free. But in order to get it, I need to get your email address so I can email it to you, right? And this is you're collecting data essentially, and that's what the guide is for. So the way I see it, and this is where I want you to fill in the blanks for me here, is I would go in and I can tell ChatGPT, hey, create a first time home buyer's guide. I want it to be 10 pages long. I want it to have, I don't know if you can put pictures, you can kind of explain that possibly, but, and it'll write it all out. You can go and edit it and change it. But so how would you go from that to where you started with a first time home buyer guide to actually having a method of putting it online to funnel, and how would ChatGPT help you create that?
Yeah, so there's still a lot of human aspects to that when it comes to Chat GPT. But
Okay.
essentially, yeah, so you can have it create your guide, lay out your guide. I won't say create it because you still are doing some manual work. But it will, like if you have the Canva plugin, for example, you can have it pull like Canva graphics and it will input that information into your Canva graphic.
There's a Canva
So
plugin? All right. I didn't
there's
know.
a Canva plugin. Yep. There's a Zapier plugin I recommend as well, if you use Zapier for anything. But you can ask it to create a guide, like you said, 10 pages. I want it to have this information. And then essentially you're still laying out the guide, right? Like you're still,
Right.
making sure that it looks nice and that it's, into a nice PDF file. You're going to download that guide. You still need an ESP. You still need an email service provider or a CRM of some sort that has a funnel system.
Okay.
And you can then from there build out your funnel system in your email service provider or CRM, but ask ChatGPT for help, right? So I need an intro email for my guide that when it gets sent, here's what the information I want in that email to be. And it's going to give you a full email that you can put into your first. And then if you don't know how to set up your email funnel, you can say, hey, I use ConvertKit for email funnels. I'm using ConvertKit. I don't understand how to set up an email funnel. It will do step-by-step guide, like walk you
Wow.
through step-by-step links. Here's where you go. If you need a video to watch how to do it, it'll send you the video. So there's still a huge human aspect of it. I have seen a YouTube video of someone setting up an email funnel kind of through ChatGPT with a Google Doc.
Okay.
I have not gotten that far, so I
Okay.
will not speak upon that. But
Right.
I have seen it out in the world of unicorns, so it might be there. But for me, in setting it up, I have it create the piece that I want to be the download, and then I have it walk me through setting up my funnel and what each email should be. So I even asked ChatGPT, what should my email funnel look like? On day 3, it needs to, what would you recommend I send to my list after they get the download? On day
Right.
5, on day 7, and it writes out the entire funnel for me, and then I just have to input it into my CRM or my email service provider and kind of go from there. You can also then ask it, hey, I need some engaging captions for
Mhm.
social media to get people to click on my download, right? To want my download. Create that for me. I need a short form video that I can make a reel out of to promote my digital download that I have for first time home buyers. And it can kind of start spitting out all that information and create a marketing plan on top of that, because just creating the guide isn't going to do anything. You have to market the guide. So
Right. You got to
it
get
can
it out to people.
all that for you.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about social media then too, because if you were a realtor and you were starting out and you were like, all right, I'm going to use Chat GPT and I want it to help me do social media. Okay. That real general, I just want to do social media. Okay. What, how would you go about, like, what would your first steps be if you were just going to use Chat GPT primarily to help you create social media? What, what would you say? What kind of how would you start, and then where would you kind of how can you refine it down to what specifically you're looking for? Just as a kind of a walkthrough on the best way to go about that.
Yeah. So if I was just starting out, and I was downloading OpenAI today, here's what these would be like my steps for that,
Okay.
for creating social content. So OpenAI, I would go on the paid version. I would set up my custom instructions. I would input my apps that would be Keymate AI, Scraper, those things. If I had a website, I would ask it to pull my information in from the website, using Scraper. So that way it knows who I am. I would set up my I would set up my custom instructions,
Right.
make sure that it knows who I am, and then I would open my chats. And we're going into 2024, right? So right now it's like, okay, what is our goal for social media? What is our social media strategy? I would ask ChatGPT first, here's who I am, here's my goals, here's what I'm doing, the platforms that I'm on, here's my target audience. I would tell it everything, as much as I can, about me and my business. And then I would ask it, what would be your social media strategy for me?
Okay.
That would be the first thing, just to get an idea of like what they would recommend, right?
Right.
What would good old Chat GPT tell me? And from there, then I would craft prompts for my content. So, right now, depending on how big or how little you are on social media, you can cross post on most of your platforms. So you can just tell it, hey, I'm looking to post on Facebook and Instagram, and I want to target first time home buyers, in the Tampa Bay area, who are, looking for a place that's very family oriented. I want to try and stay in New Tampa area within, this neighborhood or whatever. I would give it as much information as I can about what I'm trying to accomplish with my post. And then I would ask it to create 4 to 5 social media captions that are short form and long form, and start creating from there. Um, that's how I would start. And then truly those are small little steps, just to get an idea of like what it is and what it can do. And then once you understand the question that you just asked it and what it spits back out to you, right? Because you just logged in today and this is the first question
First
you
time.
asked it, first
Yeah.
time using it. You're going to see the type of response it gives you. And you're like, okay, no, I don't talk that way. Can we remove this crazy word that you're using, and can we
The
shorten it
howdies and the
much more?
y'alls and the references to my
Can we
boot.
remove the y'alls and the howdies? I speak fairly Southern sometimes, and so I asked it to speak Southern one time, and holy cow,
Yeah.
it went way over the deep end, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Talk
well,
about mama's
there's
pie and
all
rattlesnakes and yeah. No, I know. I'm very familiar.
there's just a little touch of Southern Belle, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'll see how it starts to do that, and then you literally just interact with it. You to it. Like if you're reading it and you're like, no, like that is not how I talk. Tell it. Just type
Yeah.
that out. It's like, nope, that's not how I talk. It'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. My apologies that I didn't
Yeah.
understand. Like
Yeah.
that's all you have to do with it. And I think that truly, if I was starting today, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Make sure you say please and thank you, because it's going to be ruling you soon.
I
Um,
Yeah. I say please
uh,
and thank you. Like I think it mimics, it
yeah.
gets to know who you are. And if you're a
Yes.
please and thank you type person,
Yeah.
it's gonna kind of mimic that. So
That's right. That's right.
that's
It's if you're
that's my
polite, it'll
motto.
do polite. Right. Yes. So if what are some we're getting close to the year end here, but what are some resources, and we'll talk about your stuff here in just a second, but what are some resources that you go to kind of get help with this stuff, to, not necessarily stay on the cutting edge of it, but where do you go to kind of find out, where do you come up with ideas on what to use it for? And where are you looking yourself? I mean, maybe it's inside Chat GPT. I don't know. Where are you finding your resource
Yeah,
stuff?
I was gonna say inside ChatGPT. But for those not inside ChatGPT yet, I go to YouTube for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly either YouTube. I'm also part of a lot of marketing groups. I sit in and watch a lot of webinars and speeches from marketing gurus that are like hardcore into AI. So that's kind of where I focus my efforts when it comes to AI stuff. But one thing that I do find, and when it comes to any industry and it comes to business professionals, start using it, start replacing things or using it in ways you are already doing business. Don't look at it as a shiny new object and you're trying to start new things with it, because then it does become very overwhelming. So
Right.
you need to look at it from a standpoint of, okay, I'm already doing a podcast. How can it improve or, simplify or expedite things I'm doing for my podcast? Don't be like, I'm going to start a podcast because of Chat GPT, right? That type of thing. Start replacing things or using it in ways that you're already doing it
Right.
in your day-to-day, and then add on to it. And I think that's where searching for stuff to see in YouTube or whatever makes it much easier, because if you just go search YouTube for how I can use AI, you're going to get a bazillion things. So you really need to narrow down, okay, I'm currently using social media. How can I use AI for my social media captions? I'm currently doing YouTube videos. How can I use Chat GPT to, make my YouTube stronger or make my descriptions better search? That's what you need to look at, instead of I just want to know how to use AI, because it's too much. It's too
Yeah.
much. You get overwhelmed and then you don't do it at all.
Yeah. Well, I recommend anybody, if you're looking for good tools, I recommend that you check out Chelsea's. And I hate webinars, honestly. Like, they're my least favorite thing in the world. But I attend a lot of them just because I'm in the world of knowledge, and the more stuff that I understand and know, the better it is. And so I consider myself to be a bit of a webinar connoisseur. Like, I know the good ones and the bad ones, and there's a lot of bad ones, but yours was fantastic. And you'd recorded it, and I'm trying to find my email where you'd sent the recording so I can go back and watch the second half of it that I missed, because it was really great. Like, I learned more in 15 minutes of hearing you talk about it than I could with any other thing that I've tried to YouTube, anything else. So it was
Good.
fantastic. You did a great job with it. And I recommend anybody, check out Chelsea's site, go to see her services on what she can offer, but you're going to explain it better than I do. So just as a general breadth of stuff that you guys do for clients when they come in, what do you offer? What kind of services do you guys do from small to big? And then, you don't have to give costs, because I know that's all variable, but just an idea of what you're looking at sometimes, for what it would cost someone.
Yeah. So I actually have a couple of different things. So I have my social media marketing agency where I do the done for you social media marketing, captions, graphics, content, all of that. I do the posting, basically your hands off social media as much as you want to be. If you're like, I don't want to do it, but I know I need to be on it.
Right.
That's me. Along with advertising. So if you're trying to reach, your past clients or, potential clients and things like that, potential home buyers, I do the advertising. Those packages typically start around $1,000 a month. And then I also do coaching. So if you're like, I want to do social media, but like, I don't know where to start or what to do or how to do it, I do 8-week and 16-week coaching packages. I also have, you said you were looking for the replay. So all of my replays, I have a free Facebook group called Simplified Social Media for loan officers and realtors.
Okay.
And so you can join that group. A lot of my webinars get played in there. They'll get they get posted in there. A lot of information goes out into those. And then I actually just started a membership about a couple months ago that is Simplified Social Media for LOs and realtors. That is $100 a month or $97 a month. And you get access to me twice a month in open Q&As and a ton of valuable information, how-to videos, all that kind of stuff. So again, if you're trying to build your own social media and just don't know how, or, don't know the tactics or tools or, tips or anything like that, that is a great group to join, because it's also people alike that are struggling in the social media world. And I keep it specific to LOs and realtors, so it's all in the same community. So you're not getting someone from, a different business style coming in. So yeah, those are the ways that you can work with me and find me.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on. And, I think I will tell you a common theme whenever I talk to professionals, because I talk to a lot of brokers, I talk to successful loan officers that come through this. And I will tell you that a common theme that I get from a lot of them is coaching. There is a strong majority of them. Now there's a lot of coaches out there, and you have to kind of sift through them all. But when you find a good one like Chelsea, then they're invaluable for what they can actually do to your business. Not because, and I think part of where the misconception with coaching comes into play is that you think that you're paying for something that you already know, and so first off, you're not, because most of the stuff that you're finding out you don't know, and you're learning, or there's a different angle of it that you didn't consider in how to use it, which is a big player of it. But the other
Mhm.
side of it is, and I think this gets lost a lot of times, is the accountability of it.
Yes.
Because it's one thing for you to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to handle this and I'm going to go through these steps. But it's a whole other thing for you to have to be accountable to someone else to do it.
Yes.
And it sounds like you're paying for a parent, but you kind of are, because you're going on and they're going, okay, you were going to post X amount of videos today
Where
or
are
this week.
they?
Where are they at? And you're like, oh, I didn't do it. I don't know. And you're like, okay, well, you're paying me a lot of money for doing nothing. So if you want to do it, you probably should do it, or otherwise, move on.
Yep.
But I think that's a big piece of the coaching aspect that gets lost sometimes, is just that we all just need a little accountability buddies. There's a reason that when they tell you to go to the gym, to go with a friend, because you need somebody there that will motivate you to do it. And it's
Yep.
the same thing with any kind of marketing.
Yep. Exactly. 100%. I agree with that.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for everybody that stuck around. Please check out Chelsea's socials. All of her contact information will be inside the show notes. And if you go to my website and click on this episode, it'll have all of her contact stuff there, all of her social media. I will put a link to her group, her Facebook group, so you can go into there as well. You'll get a ton of information from Chelsea. She gives it all away for free because she knows that the ones really motivated will call and have her do it for her, because it's like, I can mow my yard, but I don't want to do that.
Yep.
But so people want to have others help them out with it. But she's got great information. I encourage everybody to check her out. And I really appreciate you being here today, Chelsea. And we'll definitely have you back sometime if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Great
All right.
chatting.
Yes. Everybody have a happy new year. And we will see you in 2024, I guess, is when we'll
Oh
see
my gosh.
everybody next. So see you then.